What up? Wade here. Welcome back to the Wade Alter Show. So today I got another awesome interview. It was a lot of fun. It was very entertaining. A good friend. His name is Rohan Sheth. And so Rohan has managed over $15 million in ad spend. He's usually managing multiple companies, over $1 million per month. So he's really seen what's working today, what's cutting edge. He's even done great things. He's got multiple businesses. And he's, a speaker. He shared the stage with guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, Jeff Hoffman, the creator of Priceline.com. And I would say, I would consider him a digital scaling expert is probably the most accurate term we'll go with. And we get into a lot of great stuff about what is cutting edge today, Facebook, Instagram, what are the best ways to promote yourself. And then on top of that, we dive in deeper. All of a sudden, it kind of went down a little rabbit hole of really effective money mindsets that led to him being successful and really self-made. Even coming, like I said, he's got a really great story, and we'll get into all of that and how you can really fine tune and hone those money mindsets to attract wealth in the right way. But of course, having the proper work ethic and the tactics in place too. We really get into all that. So like I said, it was a lot of fun, great interview. So sit back, relax, and as always, enjoy. All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, we met in February for first time in person through a mutual acquaintance at the Digital Marketer event.
Yeah.
Both spoke at the same event as well. And, after talking a few times, I know a little bit about your story, but I'm excited to kind of through the public forum here a little bit more, So I'd love to kind of just get started with, I guess, start off with kind of what you do today.
Yeah.
After that, we can kind of dive in how you made your start and everything like that. So what would you say you do today?
So currently my main company, I'm involved in a few different things. My main company is a digital marketing paid traffic agency. We manage in excess of $15+ million in ad spend a year. That's mainly Facebook, not counting other platforms. That's pretty much what I've done bread and butter for the last 5 years. Outside of that, I'm just in the midst of exiting a soccer app that we took and got massive amount of publicity for. And in about a week from now, I'm going to be launching the first Instagram direct messaging bot. So think ManyChat for Instagram. And that's going to be my next big hoorah for the rest of this year going into 2019.
Cool. So are you actually creating the software to set that all up?
Yeah, me and a business partner, another business partner creating the software. We've been in development for about coming up on 16 months now. We've been using it personally for about 8. And then we did it public with some big influencers, like 1 million+ Instagram page followings. People just have really active followings just to test it, just make sure Instagram's not going to ban us for whatever reason. And we pushed this thing to the limit to the point where okay, we can go to public with it.
Nice. I think we'll dive into your story in a second. We might as well just flow right into this because this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately related to, I actually just deleted my Facebook app on my phone.
No way.
And which is kind of sad because one of my most engaged lists was Facebook, and I'm still trying to engage via the desktop.
Yeah.
But I just noticed what happened was I did that Canada trip a little while back.
Yeah.
And when I came back, I could just feel the anxiety from Facebook.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was like, you know what? It's kind of one of those decisions points where I was like, okay, this makes me money. This is kind of like a list that I can engage in.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole goal of business is you don't want to step in the swamp if you don't have to. So I'm kind of made the decision of
personal
over business, But I'm noticing, I don't know if it's my group of friends or if it's LA, but I've really noticed first, Snapchat is going to just disappear and fall off a cliff pretty soon because the stories have I see so many of my girlfriend's in her late 20s. And so that was the Snapchat scene and they're all using Insta stories. But the other thing too is some of our friends were in town about a week ago. We went to Universal Studios, did a bunch of stuff like that. Yeah. And they didn't even post them on Facebook. They only posted it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just transitioning more and more over to Instagram. And I remember your partner, Matt, was talking about this way back in February.
Yeah.
I guess just what have you seen from a human behavior standpoint, and then also as being the advertising agency around this, what are kind of trends that you see?
Absolutely. So I was one of the first early adopters in our digital marketing world for Instagram. I saw a huge switch into it in 2016, summer of 2016, and I'm like, there's nobody actually taking advantage of it. And I just went full tilt. You could buy shout outs that were dirt cheap back then for about a year and a half, and I built a massive list, massive engaged following. And not in terms of hundreds of thousands of millions. I'd rather have a very solid, small, engaged group of people. And I got to about 30,000 and it was insane, the numbers I was doing. I think just off my Instagram, I'd done 250K in sales and off of a 30,000 list. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is huge because there's so many other people that have massive, like huge followings, like 1 million, 2 million followings, like from a behavior perspective. And then as you mentioned about the Snapchat thing, and what got me on that was I was paying attention to a few people that came from Periscope to Vine to Meerkat to Snapchat and kind of watching their transition. And I'm like, no one's still gone onto Instagram. And then that's when you notice like Mark Zuckerberg trying to buy Snapchat, that deal didn't go through. And then I was like, okay, there's clear. And if you know anything about Mark Zuckerberg, and I look at it from it like from a behavioral standpoint perspective, but also business perspective, I knew Mark was going to come at Snapchat. And then I was like, that's when I was like, okay, that's when we like went all in and built the bot out because we saw what was going to happen through a communication standpoint. So going back to behaviors, the reason a lot of people that we've noticed do not post anything like, let's say you've taken a snap on Instagram and not posting it on Facebook is because people like the feeling of like being able to just post it and 24 hours later, it's gone. Because if you notice on Instagram alone, I don't have the exact data, but Jeff does, my business partner. He literally, we were looking at it last week when I was in Toronto. The usage of Instagram stories to Instagram feed is like just shy of 2 to 1. And the reason being is a lot of people just like the fact of going in, being able to show their life for 24 hours and it's gone. So it kind of takes that anxiety away of always being on Facebook or always being on Instagram. And Instagram's just done a phenomenal job from that perspective.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's interesting for me coming from, I built my brand in 2007, 2008. And one big part was blogging, which is pretty much completely gone at this point, I feel. Yeah. And then the other part was, the very early days of YouTube.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of the same thing where I only had 30,000 subscribers, but that was like, we sold hundreds of thousands of dollars from this, up to 7 figures over the course of a few years.
Yeah.
Now, if you have 30K, it's like nothing, I guess. I think because just the platform's bigger. I think people are less engaged too. At the time, like literally, I think you still get this with that like celebrity effect. Yeah. They just see you on video and they're like, oh my God, it's like a Kardashian or something like that. And like the subconscious can't disconnect it, even if you try to.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when I restarted with my real name and everything, started building YouTube, I'm like, man, I'm grinding so hard to get 1,000 views. Whereas on Instagram stories, you pop something up nice and quick every time. And it was actually the other part of it. It was a kind of a weird shift for me. It related to, I was talking with our friend Mitch about this, where he's saying like, the goal is just consistency. Just put something up. If your criteria is too high, it's gone in 24 hours. And so when you're used to doing sort of these professional YouTube videos, it's hard to just release that, But what I think is really interesting is that it's a more intimate view into your life and it's harder to cheat it. Like you can't Ty Lopez the Instagram.
Yeah.
It's the story. The Instagram feed you could, because you're like, okay, take 10 pictures. It's like, man, you're killing so much time if you wanted to try to do that on the Instagram. So I don't know, like for you, I guess the next question I would have, or what people would have is, how do you take that and then monetize that? Or how do you turn that into conversions?
So there's 2 ways to do it, right? So the one thing is you got to keep engagement going, right? And like Mitch, talking about Mitch and his consistency, this guy is like, for someone on Facebook, is probably the most avid following that I've ever seen from an organic perspective on Facebook. And his list isn't even that big, but yet he somehow managed to sell out all of his events just from like organic Facebook posts and everything else that he does. With Instagram is the exact same thing. Is Instagram, Insta stories, like, and I'm at fault for doing this a lot of the times too, because I get so busy in the day to day with my business that like I'll forget for 2 or 3 days because we have a huge project launch or whatever that I won't even post any stories. But making sure you're just posting even like 2 to 3 times a day for like 15 seconds. It's like literally 15 seconds. It's not like you're going out of your way to shoot a full video and drive back and forth. So you can literally be snapping your food and just making fun of your food or whatever, just doing some dumb shit. Because people like that because it creates a reality effect. And like more of like the real reality TV kind of effect through Instagram. But on the other end, people also look at, okay, this guy's also like one of us, right? It's like, because a perception thing is such a skewed thing in today's day and age. So like the way I look at it is using Instagram stories to first build engagement, get those avid fans. And then from there, it's just, whether it's going down and creating, whether it's like giving them a free offer and then creating a product empire on the back end of it. If you have a service, like for me, a lot of the times I'll get like consults, one-on-one consults with business owners because they know like my audience is so split that the guys on the far right side of it, a lot of times I'll get like, as soon as I open it up and I'm like, okay, taking on 3 or 4 new client consults for the next 2 weeks, boom, I'm sold out literally within 24 hours, like just from one offer. But the thing is, people look at it like, oh my God, he's offering all this shit. But it's like over 3 weeks, I won't say anything, but then I'll just throw an offer out and I'll sell it out in 24 hours. but I've consistently put that through. And then now with automation through what we've created with the Instagram bot, it's going to be insane because I could literally be like, hey guys, I'm giving away free books, swipe up to get it. Book's going to push them to the DMs. They have to, it's going to be from a perspective of where they have to, like, let's say, like I just get them to type in free book or whatever. And then from there, it opens up a full conversation that I could sell them in many different angles. Right now, it's still very humanly controlled. And when you take automation part of it, and to a point where we're going to have a feature where, you, like, once it gets to a point where it's like certain keywords will set it off, and the app and will tell you it's time for a live chat. So it's like you got to jump in and actually go in and chat with them. So like we're adding automation, but human aspect to it as well. So it's not fully automated.
Yeah, I love it. It's so interesting how people have different behaviors in different apps.
Yeah,
and how like I won't maybe respond to a text message, but if I get that on Instagram, I'm like, oh. And all of a sudden I'm the live, you're like, so you can connect with people so much. Crazy,
Yeah.
One other thing I had related to the Instagram stuff, especially the stories, what I see with ads and stuff, it's so like in your face with the swipe up and I'm talking versus like when I'm going through, the ones that I'm paying attention to are the more like lifestyle. Have you noticed anything with like incorporating some more like even having no call to action in the ad and kind of still building a relationship that way? Or are you really much just like, make sure, get the call to action, swipe up, all that sort of
stuff.
So
right now, I'm heavy with the call to action, but I know as like the people, more and more people start to get on it, that's going to get so hardcore in your face, and being the opposite end is going to win. So it's, typical marketers, they come in, you absolutely destroy everything, and then you go back to the original and be Mr. Nice Guy. Like I have an Instagram ad that I've been running probably 4 weeks now. It's like, because it's story ads, but it's the 3-part story ad, because before you could only do 15 seconds. When we first talked about it in February, and recently Facebook just released that you could run 3-part stories. So it's like 3 15-second ads. So even if they try to skip it, they still have to skip it 3 times. So you're still in their face for an extra 15 seconds 3 times. Like, oh shit, what the hell? And they'll go back and watch the whole thing. And no one's doing that, to be completely honest with you. It's like, it's so cheap. Like it's ridiculous. I'll spend like $5 a day and I'll get in front of probably like, on average, it ranges about, I'd say about 1,000 people viewing my story just because of that, just from $5 a day. And just doing that and then getting them, but it's a very hardcore. Like I've got like GIFs pointing everywhere on the ad and everything else. But I know it works. Am I going to transition out of it? 100%. But I do agree on the opposite end of being the the minimalist, classy. Just look at what I am. Maybe even doing it from a perspective of a few benefits of who you are, what you've done. Like back in the day, created this, blah 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 blah, exited X, Y, and Z company, and just kind of just leaving it that, and then no call to action. And that kind of gets them questioning, who is this guy? And then they'll go, and then they'll swipe up and go to your Instagram page.
Yeah, that's exactly. We were before the call talking a little bit about Infusionsoft, and for the people that don't know, it's like a CRM kind of mixing with autoresponder. And there was something that happened a few years back where some spammers had like they had their own accounts, and because they were using the email IPs, it just dropped deliverability. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, this is my whole business. And so at the time, I was talking about this in a solo podcast. I recreated my email autoresponder through Facebook ads and had it where every couple of days it was doing almost the same thing. And I'm like, I don't even care if they click on this. Probably even better if they don't, because then I don't get charged or anything like that. But it's like, the question I always ask, I'm like, where are they forced to see you? And like in the Facebook newsfeed at the time, like they're going to see it, even if they scroll past. And I love the Insta story idea of that too. So I've been kind of recreating this myself a bit. Where like you said, it's very much just like, all of a sudden I'm just in Thailand or something. And it might not even be like it makes sense, but they're like, who the fuck does that do? Why is he in Thailand? And all of a sudden, like a little bit later, it's like, oh, now he's in Sydney. Like, how did that work out? It's like, again, on that subconscious, you're just like, man, and all of a sudden they see you enough, and either they go back and look again and follow you, or
it's so crazy because a lot of I run into this at least once a week where I'll have like people DM me and be like, man, I see you everywhere. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just laugh because I'm like, I'm really not. I don't spend that much money for my personal brand and advertising. I say probably spend like less than $50 a week. But when you do it like strategically, using things where people are hanging out, you look like you have that full like omnipresent lifestyle. Like I'm literally only on the main channels, but I know a lot of the attention's there, and I'm on the parts of the objectives of like the stories, and even using like specific videos inside of the Facebook newsfeed. So you're like in the suggested videos and stuff like that, where most other guys are still fighting for the long form posts and everything else. But people miss out on behavior. They're going just for the marketing and not realizing where people are actually hanging out. Like you could do that for dirt cheap.
Love it. I guess with that, like if I would kind of sum up your current business model for this specific business.
Yeah.
The way that people have kind of pegged me before, and I think it's kind of accurate, it's kind of like, it's this hybrid of like influencer and using the influencer aspect of influencer marketing almost of yourself,
yeah.
and then having that transition into getting clients through that sort of process, right?
Yeah.
If you looked at sort of the time spent, I guess kind of run me through how that was like created initially. And then also like, what is that day to day? Not like, okay, at 9 a.m. I do this or that.
Yeah.
I think people have the challenge of, okay, how much time do I spend on creating the content? And I've made the mistake in the past of just like, what's the first thing that used to go was the free content. And then I realized like, even though it doesn't have immediate ROI, there is actually a tangible of like, I noticed for myself, like if I just sum up all the podcasts, if there's more, the revenue's higher. If there's less, the revenue's lower. But it's hard when you're like, I'm not getting $5,000 to do this episode.
Yeah.
I kind of just would like to know, what's your mindset on free content? And how do you, like, what is your motivation of like, okay, cool, I can see the ROI on this? Or like, I just want to kind of peer into.
Yes, the way I look at free content, the way I do free content is literally Gary Vaynerchuk, jab, 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 right hook. I think I have both two of them right there, actually. Similar style to it, but I don't really have like a specific play or plan. And the way I just do it is give your best shit out, right? Like that's kind of the way I look at it. Is like just give the best stuff out. And what ends up happening, like even last night, if you go on my Instagram story, you'll see it. Through the content I gave on my feed, a guy actually went and applied one of the stuff I was giving away for free, got a result. What did I get? A testimonial. I didn't even ask for it. I've got social proof. And now I take that social proof from the free content and then I can go create something that I can go get paid for. That's the way I look at it, is like, as long as you can get social proof through the free content, you're going to win over some guy that wants to spend 10 grand in ads. But if you've got like a sales page that's just full of testimonials and your offer is, whatever, $1,000, $500, but you literally have nothing else, just offer button and social proof, you're going to win versus some guy that spent 10 grand to write or 5 grand to write a sales letter and blah, 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 blah. So that's my thing on free content. Now, the opposite end of that is everybody and their dog's giving out free content. So how do you stand out, right? Like that's the biggest thing is, everybody's doing the PDFs and the ebooks and the white papers and blah, 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 blah. The easiest way to do it is putting yourself out there, grabbing an Instagram story and literally just going to town for like, whether it's 3 to 4 minutes and just shooting a bunch of like to pick a topic and going to town and doing that. And then eventually one of my really good friends that's absolutely mastered this is Lewis Mocker out of Sydney, Australia. This guy does mini lessons on his thing and he teaches about like, different lifestyle, different like personal development stuff, finance. He came from the finance background. And literally just from that, he's running, I think one of his businesses, his info businesses, because he's given so much free content that now he launched a mastermind monthly recurring. I think he's already doing like $30K a month in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, because it's like, well, I guess what I'd ask you next then, let's say you're just starting off, because then that's a whole new level where you're like, shit, I want to put content out, but also you've never really had clients much, if at all. So then your content's very much sort of hypothetical almost because you haven't worked with people.
Yeah.
But also then you have on the other side, you're like not making any money. And so what have you seen either through other clients or people you've modeled or even from your own experience of early on?
So you don't want to kind of come on like that. That's why I hate that whole like fake it till you make it attitude. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But the way I look at it is I'd rather, let's say, for example, if I've got a day job and I think part of your audience is kind of slowed off that day job and they're trying to figure out their side hustle or whatever it is, and I started there. And what I did was I just did shit for free, like literally just did it for free because I'd rather do stuff for free in a service-based environment or whatever and get a result. Because once you get that result, you get the testimonial, you get the result and you get the case study, and you can go out and then eventually turn around and literally, market that. And then you take that, you turn that into free content now because you've done work for free. You turn it into free content, which you can now go ahead and ask for, some kind of monetization, whether it's monthly, whether it's one-off, whatever. That's kind of the way I would look at it. And it's like, you're never going to win that battle, but the one that actually just kind of says, okay, I'm going to go be the guy that just does as much as I can for free. Like, for example, when I started my agency, when I transitioned out of the affiliate world and came into the agency world, my first 6 clients for about 3 months, I didn't make $1 on. But I had so many different niches that I got so many epic results on that as soon as I went out there, literally 3 months later, I was already doing, I think it was like $25K a month.
So what have you noticed from like, I feel that a lot of the new information products out there, and I think Ty Lopez was the guy who at least blew this up, is like, hey, the new make money online is become a social media ad agency. I feel like you have a high enough level of clients that it probably didn't really impact you very much. And you're kind of positioned pretty much as an expert in that field.
Yeah.
What have you noticed, like, if people like are in that, what sort of advice you got? Like either like get the hell out or like shift over to Instagram. Yeah. Because I'm sure you've seen a lot of other people that are like, oh, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I run an ad agency. You're like, so do I, but I think we're in a whole different ballgame here. So.
Yeah. So that's a funny question because I actually teach inside a Ty Lopez SMAA program.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So Ty reached out to me 2016 or 17. I can't remember. It's been 2017. 2017 is when I went out and shot with his team. He took it and kind of put the whole agency role, and like he made a huge difference for a lot of people that could actually fulfill. But he made it look like, it's just another thing and anybody can start it and anybody can start it. But he made it from a perspective of rather than going and delivering value first. And it's like, I've run into that so many times. A lot of my audience since last year has come from that course. People following me on Instagram and everything else. And yeah, like where I'm at an agency where most of these guys are two different levels. A lot of them are probably working on local businesses, which we still do. But a lot of our clients are like multi-level, like Inc. 500 corporations that we work with. And I don't want to kind of shit talk it, but it's also one of those things where it's like a lot of them come out there and everybody's an agency owner these days, which kind of drives me nuts a little. But the way I look at it is, and I've gotten to kind of heated battles with agency owners because it's like, we get into a situation where they'll do such massive outreach, land some epic clients or whatever, but they cannot fulfill because they don't understand what it actually takes to get that client the result. Now, what have you done? Not only have you burned the client, but you've also put a bad name for every other agency owner out there. Then I get into a conversation and then I have to now rebuild trust, rapport, everything else and get them to actually trust this whole world of agency and digital marketing. And that's where it's like, going out and charging clients up front without getting a result, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to you as an agency owner that's starting out. I don't think it's fair to the client because you've got to get some results under your belt if you're going to actually claim yourself to be a successful agency.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting balance, right? Because I feel that what I have to deal with a lot, it's fun for me because I feel every principle that I teach, there's like a analogous aspect or example from the pickup world.
Yeah.
So I think like, in dating, you're like, okay, how'd I get the perfect 10 or something like that? You're like, well, if you don't feel comfortable and you go through all like the confidence stuff and abundance versus scarcity. And I feel it's the same thing with pricing in a way where it's like when you don't feel confident to charge a lot. But I definitely have noticed that with some people, they come and they're almost like, I need to charge $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's got to be $500 a month or I'm not valuing my time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you've never delivered a result, one, it's going to somehow come through, I think, in the sales process anyways, or in the onboarding, or at some point, you're only going to be able to keep them for a month or two.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it is a little bit of a chicken and the egg, but I'm like, for me in general, it's like, charge something that at least you could feel confident. Like maybe it's even $150 an hour or like a month or something like that, or $300 a month, and then get some results. Or I completely agree with what you said about do it for free and really get some experience. Because one, you're going to be able to sell better. Like you said, testimonials, things like that. You can build trust. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's in that course or something, because I've had a few guys, probably at least a half a dozen of my clients have came to me and they're like, I took this program. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to get clients now. And I'm like, okay.
Number one issue.
Yeah. And it's like, and then once you get clients and they're like, I don't know what to do with them, sort of thing, And I'm like, okay. So it's like, I'm literally like, almost like avatar style, trying to tell them how to do their ads for the person that's doing their ad. And I'm like, I'm not even that. I'm like, I got people that do that for me, but on the other side, it's like, I do like how at least it's a business model that people can start learning. And from there, hopefully get some feedback and then be like, okay, how do I pivot into something that I really, truly like and stuff,
And it's a solid business model. I have an agency course that I brought out right after that. And then I took it off the market because how hard Ty Lopez wrecked the market. And me being inside of it kind of was like a double-edged sword. But, the biggest thing is, and the number one, like last night, like I'll do this thing randomly, like once every 2 weeks. I'll get my audience just ask me any questions and I'll answer them one-on-one through DMs and kind of give as much, like I'll spend an hour or two just laying on the couch or whatever and responding back to them. And the number one question yesterday I got is, how do I get more clients? And I'm like, that is the biggest issue. It's because people want to get paid first, but they have no experience to get paid on. Mm-hmm. It's like a doctor's not going to walk in and do a surgery on someone and expect to make $250,000 salary out of versus going and actually going to get the experience and learning and doing the work. And sometimes to get a doctorate, you got to go pay $250,000, I think, whatever the hell it costs in school to get that experience and then come back. here people, because we live in such a microwave society, and especially our generation, the millennial generation, they look at it like, oh, I just want to be able to, wake up tomorrow and make $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. It's like, dude, what did you do to actually deserve that?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, especially when they're like, I want to be an entrepreneur. You're like, okay, great, cool. I'm here to help. So what's your kind of expertise or what's your strength? Like, I don't have any, but I want to be an entrepreneur. It's like kind of missing the target here of what a business actually does. Like you got to serve someone and offer value. But if you have no value to offer, Cool. Well, I guess like I'd love to kind of dive in deeper to actually how you got into this, because it sounds like you had some success pretty fast.
Yeah.
Was that just luck of the draw there, or you're very analytical? Kind of, tell us about kind of your first forays into business and how you got into this.
Man, my story is pretty crazy. I'll give you a long story short from like when I was born to like 21 and then 21 to where I am today, because of like two huge like separations of my life. I was born in India, actually lived in Bombay till I was 11. My family grew up in a very entrepreneurial background back there. My dad and my uncle owned one of the largest travel agencies in all of India, worldwide, globally. We had offices all over, to a point where they opened an airline. And they ran that for a short amount of time until we got cornered by the government and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I had to fold that company. So I've seen like highs and lows of all kinds of companies growing out there. Parents gave that up, moved to Canada, started life pretty much fresh from when we moved here. I'd never seen my mom work a day in her life. At the age of 12, I see her go back to work. She's worked ever since. And our goal is to get her out. But so since coming here, I was like, I kind of always had that, because it's like, most people are like the rags to riches story. But I went from like riches to rags to riches. Kind of like I went like the full V. Because literally when my dad gave it all up, he literally went like 100%, gave it all up to come to Canada and like restart fresh, like, whatever they had left in the bank, they kind of took that, sold the company shares, whatever. So came here and I like lived in like inner city. Like I was like full shock, because back home I was like had a maid, 2 drivers, was in like a different country every long weekend, traveling first class. I was like, what the hell is this shit? Coming here, I'm like flying economy. Like it was just the most reset of life. But I guess, the first 11 years of my life was such a tease that it kind of like left me questioning in the back of my subconscious what the hell happened. And, coming here, have like grown up grade 6, grade 7 through elementary school, getting bullied. I kind of always was just like a weird outcasted kind of human being, because I never actually like fit into a lot of it until the latter part of high school. And then I was like, yeah, fuck it. I always knew I always liked to do sales and things. So somehow when I was 14, I got my hands on a pocket bike. And like, this is an insane story. Like I've told this every single time on a lot of podcasts, and people love it every single time I talk. So I'll share the story. So I got my hands on a little pocket bike, and I took it to school one day, to my high school, and I was just ripping around school, and I got in fucking trouble for it. But what that ended up creating was a lot of attention from the kids in my school that one-on-one. And I put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, so I went back to the guy that I bought it from, and I'm like, hey, how can I get more? He's like, oh, you just got to go on this website and order from China. So I literally ordered 6 from China, so like original drop shipping, and then sold them immediately the day I got them. All 6 sold out. Ordered 12, sold out. And I think after that, I go and raise money for my parents, like beg, borrow, and steal from my parents to like get more, to a point where I was like selling over the summer of grade 9, grade 10, I sold probably about 150 of these things. And it was ridiculous. And like I learned from there, got out of that business, went to McDonald's, became really, really successful at McDonald's at a very young age, managing a store at 18. Quit that to be my lifelong dream of becoming an airline pilot. Realized that, like the whole passion, purpose thing that people talk about, I realized that was a passion that I did not want to get paid on. I wanted to do it because I loved it. And I realized that after spending $60,000 in school. So I learned that lesson the hard way. Dropped out of that, and then I was like, back to square one, what the hell do I do? And I knew I loved sales, so I went and started doing door-to-door sales. And did door-to-door sales for about 2 and a bit years. Almost got fired from the job 3 weeks in, because I had 0 sales in 3 weeks. And the guy's like, I got to give you 2 days. If you can't get a sale, I'm going to have to let you go. And I'm like, shit, got a sale that day. 6 weeks later, I was like the #1 producer in the entire office. 6 or so weeks after that, I can't remember the exact timeline to it, I was a top 5 producer for the entire company Canada-wide. From there, transitioned into in-home sales, which I really mastered the art of selling, because I'd come in to a parent's house in 90 minutes. I had to leave with $6,500 of a sale. And I got bored, but I was making an annihilation amount of money at 21, 22 doing that. And it's not like today's day and age where like making that kind of money was solid. Like back even like 10 years ago, making like the kind of money I was making was just like going out partying, just, literally your world of back in the day, like picking up chicks and having the best time ever. And I got bored, literally got bored of sales. I'm like, could literally walk into the worst lead possible and leave with $6,500. But then like morals started coming into play. I walked away from that 100%. And that's when I started to realize, I'm like, yeah, I've mastered the art of one-to-one. What's next? And I've always been like the what's next kind of guy. Like, how could I take my skills or, whatever and take it to a whole other level? And somehow stumbled upon some Dan Kennedy stuff and talking about like one-to-many and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized the whole digital marketing world. And I got into the affiliate world. And that was like, that's when it was huge. Like 2011, 12 was huge for the affiliate world. Did that for a few years. But while I was doing that, making okay money, I was still partying, being a shithead, but I was also helping like family and friends and smaller businesses running like Google ads because I was still huge back then. Facebook had just come out. So in 2014, I transitioned from affiliate to agency because I'm like, there's a huge market here. And I actually missed the physical aspect of it because in affiliate, you're literally in front of a computer all day long. You're not talking to anybody. So I'm like, okay, let's transition into that. And fast forward a year later, 2015, met Mitch. Him and I spoke at an event for one of the sharks in Australia. And 2016 on, it was just an insane upward trajectory ever since then. And, here we are 2018 with a ton of ridiculous life experiences in this world.
Nice. Yeah, I love it, man. That's great. Like I said, I haven't heard the story before. What is a pocket bike, by the way?
So it's like those little crotch rockets. They're like those little tiny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they're like, so you probably like, I don't even know how to explain. They're like probably like 2 feet in length, 2.5 feet in length. And you whip around. They're quick.
And they're motorized?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So what'd you say? It's interesting. So it's like you have this sort of, for me, it's always looking at the inner game. And I'm kind of like the two questions that pop in my head. Feel free to answer whichever is more interesting. But it's kind of like either what's the business motivation, whether that's like your view of money. And it's like, okay, is this just a game that you're playing, or like your view of risk? Because I feel like these are sort of things that always kind of tie in with like very motivated, successful people. But there's definitely like, I mean, it's funny that you said door-to-door sales. It's just like anyone that I know that's done that successfully is a successful entrepreneur, like highly successful entrepreneur. But it's interesting, like how there's a theme here, a thread. And I'm trying to kind of suss out what that sort of mindset is, whether it's just like not caring about the risk associated with it, or like, do you see kind of where I'm going? I just kind of into this
and it's funny because that's one thing my mom said to me early on when I was getting into business. She's like, the one thing I'm afraid about you is that you don't know where like the risk barrier is. You'll do shit and like you don't have a problem doing it, and sometimes it may be too risky. And that's kind of what it is. And like, it's for me, the way I look at it is, and it may be like a subconscious programming thing, but it's like, it's like you started up here, you went down here, you built it all back up, you went back down, you built it all back up again. And it's like that roller coaster of life. And it's like, for me, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, I would rather go all in on something and realize, shit, I lost it all, but learn from it and expedite the results quicker the next time around versus just trying to tiptoe my way into trying to make it work.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What would you say related to having, resources, wealth, money, whatever, and now your association with risk? Because I'm assuming now, like, you got to compartmentalize things, or are you just like, no, I'm still like, fuck it, whatever I do, whatever here.
Like, and that's kind of where I've built over the last little bit. I built a solid team around me because I'm the kind of guy that I'm just like I'll just say fuck it. Like I got Matt. You met Matt. He's so analytical. Like 6 monitors, 3 of them are spreadsheets, which just gives me a bloody headache. And then there's just me, like straight vision. Like I'll just go all in, full balls to the walls. And that's kind of where I am. And I'm starting to become more and more analytical and like just start kind of, and especially now that I've got a wife and, it's not just me and blah, blah, blah. I got to be a little bit more, conscious of my ridiculous decisions that I make in the business world. But the way I look at it is fail fast, right? Like it's like the cliche term of failing fast. Like that's all it comes down to. And, even like I'm in the midst of a company that I invested $60K in this year and I'm literally more than likely going to be losing it. But it's like the amount of lessons I learned from that, I would have never gotten over, 6 years. But I got it in the last 3 months. Like people have an association to money where it's like, oh my God, it's 60K. But it's like, yeah, it's 60K. I'm 29 years old. I could make that no problem. Most people at 21, 22 are afraid to lose an extra 2K versus you can get off your ass and go work at In-N-Out Burger and make that 2K back in 3 weeks. Like it doesn't really matter. It's like the association and I don't even know how to explain it. Like people have this weird association to money. Like if I lose that, what's going to happen? It's like, what's going to happen? The worst case, you got to go get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. It's like, Because that really is, I feel, that's why I was kind of wanting to hone in on that. Because if I look at like the Richard Bransons or the Tony Robbins or anyone, even like the Elon Musks, where it's just like, oh, what made you come up with that? They're like, it sounded fun. And I just was like, try it. At the end of the day, it's just money, whatever. I'll get some more, Yeah. And it's like, that's like that end of the spectrum. And then you have the other end, which I really came from, where it was like, it's like people take money. It's such a serious, it's like so many like, divorces happen. And it's so like, in my family, like my dad's dad, my grandpa, like they don't even talk about it. It's like, it can't be talked about because money is just a serious thing. It's like when you take it that seriously, you're afraid to fail. And I feel that the only way to succeed in business, like the way I always talk about it, it's like a sculpture. So people think like you're adding, it's like a painting and you add a new color. I feel it's much more like carve that away. You carve that away. Oh, that didn't work. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you have this beautiful sculpture. And people are like, oh, how did you think of that? And you're like, I did it. I just pulled that shit out of my ass and I just kind of kept making mistakes. And sooner or later, like I made a really bad one. And that led to like some really cool shit happening. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's cool for me. Like for me, the only way that to continue to reinforce that is, talk to other guys like yourself and be like, see, stupid, like keep making mistakes, keep failing. Don't take your life so seriously. And then the other thing I think is also, it's interesting you said with the team, like for me, it's like building a team so you can fail faster, almost like adding the jet fuel.
Yeah.
It was like, cause you can only do so much yourself.
Yeah.
Which has been like building them out to be like, okay, let's fail. Like, let's implement this funnel, see if it works. If it doesn't, cool. We know in 30 days or in 3 days versus spending 3 or 6 months on this thing, So I love that.
Nah, I couldn't agree anymore. It's like, it's funny because there's so much more and more. It's like, when I grew up, it's so funny, right? This is the most insane thing. And I've kind of thought about having someone like really good at copy, like just me speaking to my thought about this. And like maybe Mitch or someone like writing an insane article about it. Because when I grew up, I didn't really have any association to money. Like it sounds retarded, but I didn't. Because whatever I wanted, you may sound spoiled, you may sound whatever you want to call it, but it's like, there was no limiting belief to an abundance factor when I grew up. My first few years, then I come here and then I'm in a surrounding, living in an inner city school. And you see people that are like, don't even have like, backpacks or whatever. And like, that's where I kind of started my whole drive that I've kind of put behind it because I was like a subconscious thing that stuck with me when I was younger. And then that kind of started putting limiting belief on myself. And then I realized like being in your surrounding, that's where your surrounding is so massive too. And then eventually like getting out of that world and then going into the sales world where again, people just didn't have a limiting belief about money. And I'm like, you don't realize how big of a difference money actually makes in someone's subconscious that affects everything else. It's like, it's the number one fuel to whatever human being. And that's the reason why, like, you come to my house and like, it's funny. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. You come to my house and there's cash everywhere. Like there's cash there, there's cash there, there's cash like everywhere. Cause I don't want, let's say like when I have kids down the road, it's like, I don't want my kids to ever realize like there's no abundance to money. It's like everywhere. Just go get it.
You do that on purpose? Like you like just put hundreds everywhere and stuff?
Like literally, there's like 300 Canadian, there's a few thousand US. You're like, if someone was to break into this house, they probably get some cash. And I'm not telling you where I live. And like,
I was gonna say,
and it's funny because we saw that. She saw that because I was away in Toronto last week and she had her niece staying over here and, like love her family and everything else. But it's like the subconscious programming that her niece has around money because she was like, oh my God, there's just money everywhere. And it's like, you don't see that in the average person's home, but it's just like, why would you not? The average person leaves bills around and they're so focused on the negativity of like, oh, I got to pay that versus put money around and be like, shit, I got this shit everywhere. I'll just pay this bill anyway. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the way I look at it anymore. It's like, and then doing that whole like psychological thing of like growing up and not having an association to it and then having an association to it and then not having it like going back and forth. I've realized it's like, what's the easiest way? Just look at it all the time. Just literally just look at it all the time. It's like it's everywhere.
I love that. Are there any other sort of tools like that you use? Like I noticed for people that aren't familiar with you, like I saw in your Insta stories, like you said, the drive with the backpacks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's super cool. That's definitely like a goal for me is at some point create. And I feel like you're on the young end for us. Like there's not really many people our age that are there yet.
Yeah.
Whereas like I feel like a lot of the people that we know and the groups that we're in are definitely going to be moving towards that. And I know Dan Kennedy talks about that as well, where it's like even if it's 1%, up to 10%. And the more that you give, he's like, I don't get why it works. It sounds really, really woo-woo stupid, but it works. So I do it, Is there any aspect of that? Or is it like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the charity.
So the whole backpack thing, funny enough, it came out of literally a dumb idea one day. Like me and a buddy of mine that we do it with, we were sitting having beers 2 years ago on his deck, and we're like, and we've always kind of been like, we've both pretty successful entrepreneurs, and we're both like, let's just go do it. Like, let's just go buy like 30 bags. You buy 15, I'll buy 15, and that's just kind of good. Go do it. And the last year, we're like, okay, let's do 60. You buy 30, I'll buy 30. And then we did a video on it just to kind of show, like, not looking to get attention, but I had a videographer at the time, full time from when I was taking YouTube on and stuff. I'm like, just shoot this thing. And it caught attention, like insane amount of attention. So this year we're like, all right, well, we're doing 100. Let's see what we can raise. And we raised to a point where we give away 250 bags this year to inner city schools. And like, the more and more I realized it, it's just like this. And the one thing I will never change is the elementary school that I moved to Canada, and like when I moved to Vancouver, because it's bad. Like, it's bad. The school that I went to. And every time I go there, I'm like, you just get like chills going down your arms and back. And like, just realizing like, I went here, and just to see the difference that it can make for those kids, it's huge. And the whole Dan Kennedy, like, giving back thing is like, I literally just do it. I don't do it for the fact of expecting something in return. I just do it because I know I can. And if it comes, it comes. And like, like, that's just one thing that I do that gets a lot of attention. But like, for example, like throughout the week, I'll go to Starbucks drive-thru, and every single time I'm in the drive-thru, I'll pay for the car behind me. Like, I'll just do it. Like do it. Yeah. And it's to a point where the Starbucks people, like the one down my house, already know that I'm going to do that. So they automatically just bill my car. Like when they see me when they're working there, they're just like, okay, your bill's this, the car behind you is this. I'm like, all right, sounds good. Here you go. And like, I'll just do little things like that. And Christmas time, this is a cool thing. I don't know where I saw it. I saw someone do it. And during Christmas time, there's one thing I do is like, I'll go to like Denny's for breakfast, or like somewhere cheap for lunch or whatever. And then I'll literally just get like a $12 meal, but I'll leave $100 cash, like $100 tip on the table, and just leave. Like, I'll pay the bill and I'll leave $100. And it's just like, you turn around and like pay attention and look inside of the server's face. The fulfillment of that is worth than anything more that I can get back ever.
I love it. I love it. Sick. Well, I think we've been just rolling. I could just keep rolling here for another half an hour. But I'd love to ask a couple quick rapid fire questions for you. You know that? Cool. Give me, just a couple of your top favorite books, whether they're business books, life books, self-development, whatever. What would you say the top 2 or 3?
My top favorite books. So The Breakthrough Experience by John DeMartini, massive one. Values Factor by John DeMartini as well. Dan Kennedy, The No BS Guide to Wealth Attraction, I believe is what it's called. That's in like the whole mindset space of things. There's another book of John DeMartini. I'm a huge DeMartini fan.
I've never even heard of him. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Like, yeah. Like, I was supposed to go to London next week to do a 7-day seminar with him, but I just dates and line up with some of my other travel. And he goes into like a whole bunch of different parts of your life. The Riches Within of John DeMartini, because a lot of people have like a self-limiting belief, and he goes like very deep into like getting you understand that. Business-wise, I would say business-wise. From the marketing perspective, I'd probably say Crush It or Crushing It by Gary Vee for today's day and age was absolutely huge factor for me. There's so many different books. I've got like, just on this wall here, I've got probably over 400 books that I've read at some point. Another book I want to add that I read every single year is Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. Mm-hmm. Anything Russell Brunson, he's just so good at like making things simple from the marketing world. But the one that made a big difference for me back in the day was Crush It by Gary Vee. I like that a lot. And then it's just like, I've got like over probably 400 books here at some point that I've read. I'm trying to find a book that is like the one thing is so hard for me to always, I always get that question. Like, what's the one book? And I'm like, they're really not. It's like,
there's never one. Yeah. I like that. That's good. Cool. Let's see. I'll give you 2 or 3 more that look kind of good here. I'm interested. What's the best advice you ever got from a mentor?
The best advice I ever got from a mentor was do not give a flying shit or whatever other blank word you want to use in there, because he used some very descriptive words about what anybody else thinks of you. He's like, the only thing that matters is what you think of yourself. And that makes a huge difference, because that is the number one thing that stops people, is like, because even in today's day and age, it's like they won't go hard enough because they're too worried about what that one person may think or those 2 people may think. But it's like, we live in a world of 7 billion people. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Sometimes easier understood than to do, right? But yeah, totally. Okay. I think I know from your story what you would tell the 20-year-old version of yourself. But let's say somebody that didn't have your crazy experience, like you had just some dude in his early 20s. What's like the best piece of advice you could give him?
The best piece of advice I can give him is go all in as fast as you can. Even though I've gone all in, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I could have gone harder, right? So it's like, that's the biggest thing. I don't regret a lot of things in life because I look at everything as a learning lesson. But the way I look at it is, if I could have spent an extra 5K on that one project, what would the results have been? Now, if I look at it, that extra 5K would have probably got me way more than just throwing in the towel at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Like that's one of my favorite business books is The Lean Startup. And this sort of psychological takeaway that is not even really highlighted in it, but that I took away is like the only way you can fail is by giving up.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep going, you're going to iterate, you're going to optimize, you're going to pivot, you're going to do something else. And if you just hold on and like keep going, at some point you're going to crack the code. And I think that's just the thing. People give up and say, "Oh, business isn't for me," or "This isn't for me," and it's like, or they're held back at the beginning because they're trying to find the perfect game plan at the start, and it's like, dude, that's not possible. So just keep on getting there and get going, you know?
Man, it's never perfect, ever.
Yeah. It's always messier than you expect. Well, dude, it's been great. It's good having you on your show. Thanks for showing up today.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully your audience enjoys the crazy life stories. Fun.
Yeah. Oh, I guess, yeah, for sure. Like, what are the best places for them to follow you?
Instagram, probably the most active that I'm on. But I'll send you the links for everything else. Facebook, if I have friends, you can go ahead and, I usually clean out about a couple hundred a month that are inactive on there. And then my website, which will be launching, I think this weekend, actually, my full personal brand website. So I'll send you the link for that as well. So just go ahead. And if you have anything, just the quickest way, just hit a DM. If I don't reply, just believe me, I will get to you. I usually answer all of my DMs every single month. So
yeah, what is it? Can you spell it for guests if they're...
So it's ROHAN_SHETH on Instagram. So it's awesome. Like literally my first and last name, but with an underscore in the middle of it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for having me on the show, man.
Thank you, sir.